welcome back. This is the week you missed, February 11th. It's a beautiful day in Philadelphia. It kind of feels like spring. It's going to be 60 degrees today. I'm pumped. One day we can feel a little bit of happiness. And then when we read the news, we go right back to going, what the hell is going on? I feel like this week, I actually tuned out a lot from the news this week. I was pretty busy. This story that I'm going to bring up has kind of been going on for a while. I think it's just ridiculous. It's interesting. It seems like a lot of nonsense, and people just, it's crazy to me how much people just follow the media narrative, whatever the media narrative might be, without thinking for themselves or anything. But I think the big story right now for me is Joe Rogan. I had a feeling that you might be bringing this up too. We could probably talk about this all day. He's someone we've definitely brought up before. He's the best podcast that there is, or I don't want to say best, but the biggest audience podcast that there is. We're a podcast, so obviously you always want to compare a little bit to Joe Rogan or look at him, what he's doing. But he's getting a lot of flack right now for being racist, and then for spewing misinformation. So I don't know where to begin with that. I think, one, it's a little interesting that because they don't like Joe Rogan, they try and throw everything possible that they don't like about him. If it was about being racist, why wasn't this brought up when he was saying those words? Most of the recordings of him saying the N-word were actually from years ago. I don't think he's actually said it too recently, and it's also all taken out of context. So that just seems weird to just throw into the mix. Seems like they weren't working too much with the misinformation, so they were just like, oh, let's say he's racist too. Then with the misinformation, the news has had information shared this year that's been realized to be false multiple times this year. Why don't they get in charge for misinformation? And they put it out like it's fact. Joe Rogan very rarely says what I know is fact. He's bringing up questions that he very often says, I don't know what the answer is. So it's just weird that people are attacking him, but not attacking the media. Or I love Dr. Fauci, but Dr. Fauci said that masks weren't allowed or weren't needed in the beginning of the pandemic. That was misinformation, but no one seems to have a problem with that on CNN, NBC, Fox News. He's on every media outlet. So I think that's weird. And then before I want to hear your response, hopefully you can hear this. I might try and edit this into the show so people can hear it. But this is Israel Adesanya. He's fighting tomorrow. He was asked about Joe Rogan. Let's see if you can hear it.
And Joe Rogan is one of the nicest, coolest, working with. Understand that? Hey, it's just fuck the noise, man. You know what they're trying to do. You can't control the man, and he's got the biggest platform in the world right now. So that's my nigga Joe Rogan. Fuck the noise.
Wait.
What's advice would you give to Joe Rogan to shut out all the noise around him? Do what I said. Fuck the noise. Just keep doing you, Joe. Have some mushrooms. Keep doing you.
Have some mushrooms. I love that he throws that in there. But it's funny to me to see a black guy say he's my N-word, and then you're probably going to see a lot of white people today say Israel is racist also, Israel Adesanya, or that he doesn't know what he's talking about, or whatever it might be. And it's like, yo, Joe Rogan has a lot of black friends, and they all seem to say he's not racist. Why is that the case? But mainstream media is like, nope, he's racist. Or one person says he's racist, and that becomes a narrative.
Yeah, no, the whole thing is crazy. And the thing to me that is most mind-blowing is that you've got all these news organizations. There was some talking head on CNN that was just I think her name was Allison Camerata, and she was like, I just don't know what to do about Joe Rogan. And, he's got such a large platform. And of course, the thing that is bouncing around at the back of their head, it's yeah, he's about 20 times more popular than anyone on CNN, which obviously there's a tinge of jealousy around well, why don't as many people listen to us? Or and it's because you're fucking lame.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think that the thing that's crazy is like, as soon as he has a platform that large, they assume that he needs to be held to the same standards as like a news organization. Joe Rogan has never claimed to be a news organization. He's never held himself up as like Joe Rogan, trusted source of news. No, it's a
And maybe
podcast.
that's partly why he has so many views, because he's not doing that.
Exactly. And I think, you know, it's just absolutely crazy that he's even that he's basically held to the standard as if he were sort of a new, it's like not every piece of content is designed to be news. I mean, shit, there are whole podcasts around like wild, like outlandish conspiracy theories that will put out much more misinformation. They're just not as popular. But if some like
The Onion or Babylon Bee, I know those are satire, but a lot of people don't realize that satire.
that way too many people do not realize that that is satire. That is for sure.
Why don't we ban that? Why isn't that having the big campaign of misinformation that Joe Rogan's having?
No, but the whole thing, it's just crazy because it's a combination of two things in my mind. One, it's just this, you know, just the attack ad with the N-word video was just so disingenuous. And look, I've been listening to Joe Rogan sort of like on and off and occasionally for probably 10 years plus. And I definitely have heard some of those episodes where he used the word, and like every time he would say it, it would always strike me as like, that seems like a bold move. It's like, but you know, just like, look, it's just a word. Like, are we going to imbue it with all this power? And you know what? It is not just a word. It is a very terrible word that has a terrible past and usage history. But at the end of the day, it's like there's a difference between like seeing someone and shouting that word at them and being like, get out of here, N-word, versus like discussing a book or like reading a passage from To Kill a Mockingbird or Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer. Like there's a difference. And this fact of the matter is that everyone is just acting like context just does not matter is just absolutely insane. And in what other part of our life on a reality basis does context not matter? That's the thing that's wild. It's like news organizations seem to live in this like alternate universe where it's like, well, it doesn't matter if you say words, we analyze those words in a complete vacuum in a bubble, and it doesn't matter what you meant.
Yeah, what's weird to me though too, or that I just don't understand, and I wish someone could like give me a rule book or a definition of all of this, but why some people are given a pass and some people aren't. So Justin Bieber has a few videos of saying far worse things, in my opinion, than anything Joe Rogan ever said. There's some people who say Justin Bieber does culture appropriation because of like the way he might dance or some of his songs and whatnot. But then he has, I'm gonna play you one of them. He has two videos that are, I'd say, pretty bad. I'm gonna play you one of them, and then we'll talk about that in a second.
In the brief clip, Justin Bieber can be heard telling a joke, and the punchline is a racial insult. Why are black people afraid of chainsaws? Don't eat it. Don't run.
So he has that one, and then he has, I think, an even worse one where he talks about, he says like, if I was if I was killing black people, I'd be in the KKK or something. And it's like, yo, you're talking about killing black people, and you're talking about like the N-word in a not you can't argue that at all, that you were using it just as a word. You were using it very, very not appropriately. But Joe Rogan, taken out of context, and everyone wants to kill him. Justin Bieber is on Spotify. Why didn't everyone want to, India RE, want to leave Spotify being on the same platform as a kid who wants to kill black people? Like, I don't understand that. And do you know the difference?
No, and well, no, here's the difference, is that at the end of the day, Justin Bieber is a pop star who is entertaining people. Joe Rogan is a comedian who is entertaining people, but also talks about things that certain people think he shouldn't be talking about. And, you know, I think the part that, and so he must be silenced or he must be attacked. Because Justin Bieber is just putting out some music that some people like, or a lot of people like. Joe Rogan is a dangerous spreader of misinformation in the way that they see him. And, to me, it's crazy because I think everyone can agree that our society is not as sort of into critical thinking or like examining things as it should be. And, say what you will about anything about Joe Rogan, but many of his podcasts, whether you agree or disagree with the person that is talking, it at least makes you think, and it gives you like really interesting perspectives on a lot of topics that sometimes a lot of people are talking about and sometimes no one's really talking about. And like this idea that something that is like content that is like a little bit more intellectually stimulating, but as soon as it says the wrong things, it just has to be, killed and attacked and try to be destroyed, is just wild to me. And I think, so I think that's why. It's because Joe Rogan was actually having an impact in a way that pushed people against what a sort of like larger narrative was in our society. And so he had to be stopped. And the thing that is wild is that, I think the first video Joe released where he talked about the misinformation stuff was really great because he brought up, he's like, a lot of the things that I got hit for on misinformation turned out to later be true. And he brought up the fact, like, a year ago, if you posted about lab leak theory, you could be banned on Facebook or YouTube. Now it's basically considered what happened. And he gave a bunch of other examples, and he's absolutely right. I think with the N-word video and the apology, it's his choice, it's his thing. I think, honestly, I think he should not have apologized, because I think he should have basically just said, like, I'm obviously was not using the word in a way to attack anyone. It was a poor choice of words. It's in my past. I don't do it anymore. Basically buzz off. Because the fact of the matter is that when you like bend down in front of these people, these like cancel mobs and everything, like there is no apologizing. You show me anyone where when they've really come at someone hard that isn't on their team, when does apologizing ever work? It just doesn't. No, but see, Al Franken,
his career got ruined and no one cared.
Well, but he's someone that, and people are saying now that like Al Franken's biggest mistake ever was actually resigning. Like he should have written that out. This has been like, look, I didn't actually grope the woman. She had a flak jacket on. And like other people that are saying like my hand, like graced across their butt while we were taking a photo. It's like you could have talked your way out of that one. Like
easily.
He could have written that out. And I think he's kicking himself now for stepping down, because he probably would have kept on getting reelected in Minnesota and he would have been a senator today. And
definitely, Minnesota's pretty big these days. Seems to be at the center of a lot of news stories.
Yeah. So, I think that with Joe, it's just they see someone who they view as dangerous and they're trying to take him down. And I've listened to the Joe Rogan show long enough. Like they haven't released the F word, the F word for gay people, because I know for a fact that that's supercut. If it doesn't exist, it could exist, because he's used that word plenty on the show. Same with tranny, and same with probably some Asian stereotypes. Like, because that's the thing. It's like when you're making jokes, it's like you're gonna have a lot of material that if you take it out of context, it's gonna read as terrible.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that's like if you look at a very offensive comedians, like some of the bits by like Bill Burr or Anthony Jeselnik or Joe Rogan or Dave Chappelle, if you just printed out the words and read them and didn't know who was saying them, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this person is a racist, or this person is a sexist or hates women. But then when you add the context of, oh, it's a comedy show, these are jokes, and they're delivered in a way where his tone will make the horrible thing he's saying obviously that he's mocking the type of person who would say such a thing. And now it's like, okay, now this all makes sense. But when you rip all the context away, it's not fair and it's dishonest. And like the thing that annoys me is all these people act like they're all high and mighty. Like we've all made jokes that if you just wrote the words down and handed them to your like super religious grandmother, she'd be like, oh my gosh, why would you ever say such a thing? Like everyone has said those things, but it's like in the moment, everyone thought it was funny and laughed and was slapping you on the back. And like, I don't know, it just seems so crazy. And the thing that I like is that, Joe is obviously getting a ton of shit, but he is strong enough to weather this storm, and he might end up like losing some status or become like branded as an outcast amongst like the liberal, the left, and the progressives, which I'm sure he could not give less of a shit about. And he's still going to make money. Like the thing, I'm sure
I think he's going to come out of this making more money than he would have before. He might get dropped from Spotify, get 100 million from them. He got 100 million offer from Rumble. Plus, his content is only getting more and more popular. He's got 11 million subscribers. The next highest, I think, is like Tucker Carlson with 4 million. He's got triple the amount of subscribers as the second person in media. So he's not going anywhere. He could start his own platform and sustain it just with his own viewership.
You know, and that's what I think that was the big thing I was considering is, you know, I obviously saw the move by Rumble. I'm curious if Rumble's like, oh, please don't say you're interested because we
they can't afford it.
Like that was the thing that I was wondering. It's like, do they actually have the money to make that happen?
You want to get in the news.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, they could find some private equity guy or something to cut that check if he actually was interested. But, you know, I think you know, and the thing with Joe, and because I've been listening to the podcast for a while, like he never intended it to become like this giant business. Like it literally, like, he was putting it out initially, like in the first episodes, it was they would record sessions in the back of the green room at the Comedy Store of just him and his friends sitting around bullshitting. And then it just grew into this. So like, I think the thing that would be hilarious is like, if Joe Rogan is basically just like, you know what? Spotify kicked me off. They gave me my $100 million because they breached a contract. I'm done. Fuck you people. I'm gonna do stand-up comedy. I'm gonna run my comedy store. I'm gonna go hunting every single weekend and
whatever,
and just F you. Like I'm done.
Yeah. That would be cool.
It would be, but I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. I think that we will see at least a couple other attempts, and apparently they're already. I don't know if you saw this, but he on his most recent podcast, he was retelling an old Zach Galifianakis joke, and now everyone's trying to cancel him over that. It was basically something they were talking about, like when teachers have sex with students, and how when it's a male teacher with a female student, everyone's like, this is an outrage. And then when it's a, you know, a female teacher with a high school student, everyone's like, nice, good job. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, the joke was, did you hear about the kid who died after having sex with his teacher? And he goes, oh no, what happened? He goes, his friends high-fived him to death. And he was quoting an old Zach Galifianakis joke, wasn't even his, and now he's getting like run through the ringer again for, you know, minimizing sexual assault of a minor and da 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 da. And it's like, oh come on, it's like that is the most common, like that is such a trope and such a thing. When all this, as soon as we started hearing these stories about teachers having sex with students, literally the moment after that story broke, every single guy was like, man, there were a couple teachers in high school, like, I wouldn't have minded if they made moves on me. And like, yeah, is it creepy and weird? And should teachers be fucking students? No, absolutely not. But like,
people just want to jump on whatever they can to get mad.
To act like that was some like new thought that Joe Rogan had and that hadn't been said by probably millions of people is nuts.
Yeah. And then they don't realize even that he's repeating it, and it's Zach Galifianakis or whatever his name is.
Right.
And when you say that, they won't even like budge and think about it. It's like, nope, Joe Rogan said it, he's the devil.
But, well, and I think, so what do you think if in the next two questions, one, does the mob succeed? Does Joe Rogan does Spotify sever ties with him? You don't think so? Why not?
I think they're too dug in right now. Maybe eventually, but not for a while. I don't think they'll renew his contract whenever that's time. I don't know when that is, but I feel like they've dug in too much right now, where like, what would the point be in dropping him now? I don't know. And it's a lot of money that they'd be losing. Well, I don't know. What do you think is going to happen?
So it's interesting. So I think from a strategic standpoint, not that I want to be helping these people, but hopefully they probably aren't listening. But
hey, you never know. No one thought Joe was going to listen to Joe Rogan.
So the people that are trying to take him down shot their load too early and went in reverse. They should have started with a Supercuts clip of him saying a bunch of misogynistic stuff. Then they should have layered on top of anti-gay stuff. Then they should have laid on anti-trans stuff. And then you go with the N-word. Because like the N-word video was supposed to be the kill shot, obviously. Right. That was the intent. But I don't think they laid the ground enough first. If they had softened him up with a bunch of misogyny, homophobia, and transphobia accusations, I think the kill shot might have worked. But I think they went all out of order. Anything else they release is not going to be, it's not going to be condemned as much as the N-word video.
Right.
And I think it's, just gonna, I don't know. Because, from having listened to him for long enough, like, I can't think of what other stuff you could cut together as like an out of context supercuts besides him using the gay slur, the N-word, maybe some weird stuff about women, definitely some stuff about trans people, and they went with what is the most outrageous first, which I think was a strategic blunder on their part.
And I think too, there's enough people from all of those demographics who support him, like Israel Adesanya did, where when you get mad at him for saying the N-word, but then you have a lot of black people saying Joe's my N-word, it kind of negates it, at least to an extent.
It definitely throws a little bit of a wrench in the narrative.
Yeah, exactly. But is there anything you want to throw in for a couple minutes from the week we missed? Or I think that was a nice big topic.
No, let's do a little bit on what we talked about last week. So the truckers are still doing their thing, and the thing that's wild is this has apparently started a movement. Apparently, the first trucks today are rolling into Vienna to start a similar protest, and there have been rumors that there was going to be one that was headed for LA for the Super Bowl. So
yeah, from LA to DC, I think it's going to start in LA, go to DC.
I think it'll be interesting to see how this all pans out. I think, and it's just funny because I feel like 2 or 3 years ago, like calling things racist or fascist was pretty worn out. But like, I feel like at this point, like it's losing all meaning because because we talked about it literally. And I think after we talked about it, and this was before the attacks on the truckers really got picked up. It was,
you didn't really know about it.
What did I say? I said they're going to call them racists and fascists. And then I think literally 20 minutes after we ended the podcast, I sent you like a screenshot of a political cartoon that just had all these trucks and just fascism on the trucks. And it was like, they're so predictable at this standpoint. Like if anyone called you a racist, would you even care?
I mean, I'd care a little bit because I don't want to be called a racist, but I know that it's not true because it's just getting thrown around left and right.
You would have cared way more 15 years ago.
Oh, 100%. Everyone's a racist now. And everyone is compared to like Hitler, which is like pretty offensive for most Jews, but the left doesn't want to hear what the Jews think. They just want to control the narrative or whatever. But yeah, they're being called racist. They're being called fascist. They're being called everything. There is one, what's it called? Nazi. I can't even think of, what's the Nazi symbol?
Swastika.
Swastika. There's a swastika that someone brought to the protest or whatever. And it's like, unfortunately, someone's bringing a swastika to every protest these days because there's just there are actually Nazis thrown out everywhere.
So
but
interesting about that story. Did you actually see it or did you just hear about it?
I saw a picture of it, yeah. But it was
it was the swastika that was on a Canadian flag though, right?
I don't remember. It was one person though in like a huge group of people, and it wasn't like the focal point at all.
Because that's what I heard, the same thing, that there was the swastika image that was getting overblown, and what the podcaster I was listening to was like, look, you might disagree and be like, doing it this way is a little bit like offensive, but what he said, it's like the person put a swastika over the Canadian flag, implying that what the Canadian government is doing is Nazi-like authoritarianism. Like I don't think they were flying like the flag of the Third Reich. And again,
even if they were flying the flag of the Third Reich, like that's not what the movement's about. There's one person of the 50,000 there who's a fucking Nazi. Who cares? That guy is an idiot. But that's not what the movement's about. And it's like there's one person there too who pissed on in a monument. It doesn't mean that they're fucking all like not patriots and they want to kill everyone in Canada. One person out of 50,000 pissed on a monument. Who cares? Last year when we had our protests, there's plenty of people, and like when I say protests, I'm talking about all the protests we had, not just the George Floyd, but the ones for no mask or no vaccine or like open up or whatever, the ones in Wisconsin, the ones in Michigan, all of them. every single protest had a person there who was racist, a person there who was anti-Semitic, a person there who was an idiot, a person there who was against America, a person who was against all foreign countries. But none of the protests were for that. There was people there, but that's not what the protest's for. So who cares?
Well, there's a term that is used in like politics and media. It's called nut picking. Are you familiar with this term?
I like the term, but I'm not sure I'm familiar with it.
Basically, what it implies is that you discredit a movement or a group or an organization by picking out the one nuttiest person and focusing on them and being like, this is what this group is. Because you know what? I think when the Black Lives Matter protests, when they were peaceful and organized, and I watched videos of the real legit protesters, when they would see someone throwing a rock at a building or trying to attack a cop, they would push that, they would literally deliver the person to the police and be like, arrest this person. We don't need them. They are not with us.
Yeah.
But then for them, when you see, because the way the right does it is they focus on all the people that end up burning shit and breaking windows. And it's like, this is what BLM is. That is dishonest. It is just as dishonest as saying, this is what the trucker convoy is. It is a Nazi supporter, it is a fascist. No, it's not. A vast majority of the people in both BLM and both the trucker convoy are just decent, regular people.
Yeah, I know a kid who's there, which is nice to like know someone personally, because I know he's not a fucking far right dude. He probably grew up actually on the left, if I had to guess. But he's just a normal dude who literally, he doesn't have the vaccine. He can't travel in Canada anywhere without, he can only go in a car. And even in a car, between some of their provinces or territories or whatever, they actually have checkpoints. So he's literally like stuck in his little city and has been for the last 2 years. So he's just pissed off and wants to support these truckers for freedom. And every day, and like all his posts are about like freedom. We just want freedom. We want freedom. And he's being labeled a right-wing fascist. And you're like, what? Like, that's crazy. And that's it's offensive. And it makes the people who are criticizing just look dumb and look like they don't want to listen and hear what like the actual issues are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think the trucker thing is going to be wild. I think we're just seeing possibly the beginning of the movement, not the end of a movement. It'll be interesting to see how this spreads around the world.
If it comes to DC, we're having an episode in DC. We're meeting there. How far is DC from you?
That'd be like a 5-hour drive, but I'd go see some stuff.
Hell yeah, let's do it, man. Just bring your guns.
Oh, absolutely. Nope.
No, but yeah, nope. I'm honestly, if the timing's right, I'm down to go just to witness it. Because
if it happens, I would also be up to see, down to clown always. Listen, let's call it a wrap. Good luck to the truckers. Good luck to Joe Rogan. And this is just, we're getting into a wild space, man.
Hell yeah, everyone be safe and just think a little bit. That's all I really have to say. Peace. Love you guys as always.